I'm the weirdo, the psycho.
I thought you were going to break out rapping there.
Well, there is actually a song, but
I'm the
the next
weirdo, the
part
psycho, the
was
microphone maestro.
exactly the
Well, I've got
microphone
quite a big hood.
abuser.
We could do the
8 Mile with Ian.
yeah.
Yes! Oh wait, hang on. Tom, where's yours?
Little Lisa. I don't think I've got one. I'm looking around the office. I'm hoodieless.
Oh my
Oh. Hold on. I'll get me t-shirt.
god.
There we
That
go.
looks good. Actually, you look like the hunchback from
Yes, master. Immediately, master. Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert Ian Barnard and the amazingly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glans. We're afraid Dustin couldn't be with us this week, but we promise he will be back with us very soon. This week we discuss how to find contentment in your creative work. All too often, stress, worry, and self-doubt cloud out the basic enjoyment we should all be having that we get to create for a living. We discuss how to find some of that joy again, have fun, and find happiness in your creative process. Without further ado, let's get into the show. So this week we're talking all about how to find contentment as a creative, how to be happy in what you do day to day, how to maybe worry a little bit less and enjoy a bit more. And I'm going to kick off this episode with one of my favorite quotes from a Mr. Ferris Bueller. Can you guys guess the quote that's coming?
No.
Ian looks like it, right? So
I recognise it. I can't off by heart know every quote from
okay, so it's
that film, but I'm
it's
sure
pretty motivational stuff. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Bueller, not that one. Okay, the one where he's like, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you just might miss it.
Exactly.
And I always like that quote. And how that is, of course, relevant to the dear listeners at home is that if you are constantly like freaking out and worrying and overthinking things and so focused on all the other stuff that goes with your creative career, you might actually forget to stop and look around once in a while and enjoy the process and the journey and what you get to do, hopefully most days at least, which is be a creative. So I thought it could be a fun episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Lisa, you strike me as the kind of character who finds daily enjoyment. What's your secret?
I think my secret is not taking stuff so seriously. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I have to admit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have been known to freak out about the stupid stuff, but
Sorry, just super quick question.
Yeah.
Does Cliff ever walk into your room and you're like deep in the rabbit hole of freaking out?
Yes.
And it will be over something quite ridiculous and he has to calm you down. So he'll walk in the room and be like, what's going on? And you're like red-faced and crying and hyperventilating. And you're like, it's the bunnies! It's the goddamn bunnies! They just won't finish themselves.
Well, it's often technology that freaks me out. Like it's not the computer's not working fast enough, or I don't know, the banking is an issue, or I don't know, something like that. But no, he doesn't hang around.
He's
He
wise.
literally, yes,
he must be quite wise.
And he literally does it at 180 and heads out that way.
It looks like a cartoon. Does he whistle as he does that?
Actually, that would be quite good. It might actually snap me out of it. I must tell him to do that.
And then you hear a splash as he jumps into the swimming pool. Like
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult not to lose your cool sometimes when you're like in the moment. But I have to say, these days I'm a lot better. I used to be really bad. As I think I might have mentioned this before, I've broken a few phones by slamming them down too hard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like especially when I used to work with clients, because you can't tell them how frustrated you are that they're making you do something that's just awful, and you just have to do it. So yeah, I would like take the frustration out on putting the phone down, and the phone didn't make it. But anyway, besides that, yeah, you have to know how to have fun with yourself, and sometimes you need to, take the piss out of yourself too. It's like if you're being a moron, sometimes that's okay, and laugh at it. So I think a sense of humor is a good thing.
Yeah, spot on. I think this podcast helps me in that respect. I can have like, it's been a super, super good but very busy day at work, and instantly I jump on with you guys, and before the show we're pretending to be gangster rappers and like putting stupid hoods up and giggling like idiots. And funny enough, a lot of the crap like melts away.
Absolutely.
When you just do silly stuff like that.
Yeah. How about you, Ian? What do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah, Ian. What do you do?
After what Lisa said, I'm thinking about getting the old telephone out of the loft and just putting it on the side. So when we're having a bad day, I could just like pick it up, just so I could put it down.
Although, Lisa, I presume that's what you're talking about, like the old school phones where they sit on the they sit on the little thing. They're meant to be slammed down. Okay, good.
Oh wow!
I thought you.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that is really old school. Wow.
Are you serious? You don't have that?
Well, I think we did in 1980, but
I've still got a vintage phone. People.
Okay, I'm glad for anyone listening. This is like old school phone that you would place down. It's got like the keypad separate from the phone. I thought you originally meant a smartphone, like you're getting your iPhone and like smashing it on the desk.
No, gosh, no.
That'd be expensive.
That would be a damn expensive bad habit. No.
Okay.
This is just one of those the handheld things. So
it's not even a wireless home one. It's
would crack a lot.
That looks like the kind of phone where you should have an instant phone voice. Hello, Glan's Graphics.
Hello.
How may I be of service?
Oh my god, you joke.
I used that
the color of Lisa's phone reminds me of 1980s bathroom color choices people have.
It really does.
Avocado, I think it was.
And you know what the sad thing is? In South Africa, this is probably like you can still buy this. I'm sure.
That's cutting edge right there. Glan's Industries.
Yeah.
Did you put on a fake voice? Like, let me just fetch Miss Glan's for you. And then sort of make a bunch of noise like that. And then suddenly you're like, oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Margaret. That's just my receptionist there.
No, but the thought crossed my mind.
Okay. So, sorry, Ian. Random tangent there.
You went off of the tangent.
How do you stay happy in what you do? That's the bottom line.
I think a similar thing with the sort of, not taking yourself too seriously, because I find my personality, I think the more in tune you are with who you are, I think it really helps you to be more happy, because like when you're trying to be someone you're not, it's just like, rubbing against yourself really. And I come to find
that could be fun too.
That's our third tip for how to stay happy.
Just sometimes mucking around, like I suppose that's where the vegetable calligraphy came from, was because sometimes I just like because I'm like only a few months off 40. I have 2 children, a wife, a mortgage, a house, pension, stuff like that, and yet I still don't feel responsible or feel older than 21.
That's reassuring to hear.
Like, like when you have children, you feel like there should be this like automatic sort of sense where I'm now a responsible adult. I have I have someone, who looks to me to provide for all their needs, and, but I don't feel any different. And I'm just like making it up as I go along. And, I still want like, and what's quite nice about having kids is that I have an excuse to be silly. Like,
I can't wait for that bit.
And like play, like my kids have got some of the toys that I never had when I was a kid. And so, it's great.
I mean, Ian, to be honest, again, you can see this on YouTube if you follow us there, but if you're listening to this, Ian sat in his new studio, which looks amazing, but he's got a giant chalk wall that he's lettered on. He's got a skateboard deck behind him that he's lettered on. This looks like every teenage boy's kind of dream room. And I think that's the coolest thing in the world. You're not like some grey, drab bloke in a grey suit who's trudging home from an office job he hates. You're in this little like madhouse that you've created around you of creativity and fun, and that's got to keep you young. Like, I think that's amazing.
The only thing it's missing is like right in front of me where I am now is a blank wall, and I was like, "What a nice big TV and an Xbox." I was like,
yeah.
You would never work though.
Yeah, that's very true.
That was what I think. Because I got one in the house. My son would have a mare if I like. Well, where is it gone, Dad? I was like, I work purposes.
Although I'm looking at it now, we got a flat screen TV put up on the wall at Design Cuts. We never use it. It's sat there.
What?
I'm praying that. Well, everyone's too busy working. But yeah, I think at Christmas the idea is we get some holiday films up and drink cocoa and that sort of thing. But anyway, while we're on the topic of your office, Ian, I think a tremendous number of the listeners probably work from home. I know we've got a lot of freelancers, a lot of creatives who might work out of their bedroom or a little home office or studio. And I think that would be one of the funnest ways, because a lot of people, they might set up a desk and a few bits and bobs, but it's like, that's your space. Like, if there's ever an excuse to make something, whatever your wildest dreams are, surely the only limitation to that is money. And a lot of the time you can do awesome stuff on a budget. Like, why not make that space completely yours? Like, as wacky as you want, as random as you want, as fun as you want.
Yeah.
Put whatever, like, draw all over the walls if you want. Like, put quotes up on the wall that you like have the TV, have like 8,000 Sonos speakers surrounding you so that you're like working in a rave, if that's your thing. Like, it really doesn't matter. But no. Why not make that space yours? Like, because I'm looking at you there, and I'm like, I could not be depressed at work working there.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Can I just put a caveat on that? This has taken 18 years to get to this place. I don't want to just strolled out.
Yeah, just throw it together.
Yeah. Like, I went through like working, like, our first house me and my wife got was a really small cottage, and I'd like one of those little tiny corner desks, and my wife I had to borrow the money off my wife was then my girlfriend, and we'd only been going out for a year, and she lent me the money for my first iMac just before I started my first job, and that was a really pivotal thing. So I'm very, very thankful to her for the trust that she put in me, because like we were like a new couple, a year wasn't that long, and actually the day before I started my first job, I'd been to, this is why I have mixed feelings about sort of going away, so this is a bit of a tangent of whether university and whether college and stuff like that is really adamant to go to do what we're doing, is because that the day before I started my job, my best friend taught me how to use Illustrator. I hadn't been taught it on my 2 years of graphic design school, and when I got in, the first thing they wanted me to do was to load of stuff in Illustrator. So it's like, wow. it was so that was like my beginning bit of like, and I was starting to do bits and bobs in my spare time while being fully employed. And then we got another house, and then before our children came along, I used one of their bedrooms. Then they came along, and I didn't have anywhere to work, and so it was the kitchen table with like little tiny children running around my feet, and
hardly
people coming in. No, and there's like, and they were young, and so there was like, my wife was part of an NCT group, it was really good, but they were like round here, and other little kids were around. So, I don't know how I got anything done. And so that was another bit. And then we decided to sort of convert, or not convert. It was just like we had like the old toilet, because we had an old house. There's an old outside toilet that was just storing like a couple of bikes. Wasn't very big.
Sorry, did you work out of the toilet? Is that what you're saying?
Which is quite good.
Serious?
I've got a weak bladder.
Yeah, you just worked on the toilet for 8 hours.
Yeah.
But me and
talk
friends,
about an upgrade.
Yeah, me and friends like spent ages sort of putting in insulation and, you know, plasterboarding it, and I got like a worktop off eBay, and that was my space for the past 5 years. And then I'd just been saving for all this time, because I'd wanted something in the garden, because my best friend's dad was a graphic designer. He was someone who really meant a lot to me, and really pivotal in like seeing someone work from home, and how great that was, and how even though he was quite busy, he was, you know, you could pop around there and say hello, and he was always had time for his kids. Unfortunately, he died a couple of months ago, and it was really.
I remember you've mentioned him a few times on the show, actually.
Yeah, and
that
so
must have been quite hard.
And I had started building it, and I let him know that, you know, it was because of him and his garden studio. There's something I inspired to have in my garden as well. Something where I, you know, that space that was purely for creating. Obviously, like we say, have some fun as well. But you know, just having somewhere where you can. It's like I commute across my garden, which is not that long anyway. But yeah, and I hope it to be a blessing for other people, not just, you know, this is my space. It's somewhere I got space for like a couple of people to come and do like workshops, or, you know, draw on the wall, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
cool.
a multi-purpose, and I'm hoping to start on my YouTube channel again. Now I've sort of nearly sorted out.
I think you need to, because I'm looking at a video of you speaking right now, and I feel like I'm watching a popular YouTuber. Like how you're talking now, I'm thinking this is something I could actually watch on YouTube.
Well, like I get a lot of comments saying that the comments come all the time is I look like some guy from BuzzFeed, where there's a guy who wears glasses, and yeah, maybe I look a little bit like him. An airport announcer. Or
what does an airport announcer look like?
Ian, or sound like, I suppose. But yeah, so
you got a riff on that. Be like, can the Boeing flight 747 fit for takeoff?
I could do a whole lettering video in that style. But you know, it's just more space really to spread out all my things, because I got a real passion about doing physical art. So I have a desk for physical art, like a digital one where the computer is, and for filming and stuff like that, and then a one where it's like overhead, showing what I can do with my hands, and you know, the pens and stuff like that. So it's sort of bringing the sort of two, analog and digital, together. And
awesome.
Yeah, I just love teaching people, and so I'm hoping that this will be something that can help others. Which in that sort of way.
Yep.
But I find, sorry, back to your original question.
Yeah.
About
what makes you happy and content in what you do.
I suppose interacting with others. So that would be like, you know, like just riffing off this, teaching others, producing stuff that people respond to. And I suppose like you, Tom, you do a lot of that with your Tom's Tribe and stuff like that. You know, just how, you know, knowing that you've made a difference in someone's life is really. When you're having a bad day and someone emails you or messages you and say, "Oh, thanks for what you posted. It really helped me."
Best thing, right?
Yeah, best thing. Especially when you're having a bad day,
amazing.
it's just like, "Oh, actually, I am making a small difference," or stuff like that. So that's what, you know, makes me, one of the things that make me happy.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, when I'm what actually still gets me down. I try not to let it bug me, but I'm only human, is, you know, when you hear people of either, you know, there's copyright issues or theft of your work or whatever. And then you just like, so you're kind of in a hole about that and you're not really enjoying it and whatever. But then you get an email from somebody saying your work, you know, makes me feel so happy and that kind of stuff. It changes everything. So at the end of the day, like, man, that whole interaction with people and just getting like having some kind of community. I know, Tom, that's why you're trying to build, the Tom's tribe and everything. It's just, it makes all the difference
Mm.
to. So
It
even
does.
if you,
It's like they're all rooting
so
for you, right? Which is the coolest thing. And you're
Exactly. And
rooting for
even
them.
if that's right. And I know a lot of freelancers that work at home, they often get kind of despondent and they feel like they really separated and isolated because, you're not really interacting with people. And I know what that's like because I'm in the same boat. But as bad as I am at social media, that to me is actually, it's a joy because the people that I get to interact with and the people that you meet, even though you've never met face to face, you kind of get to, you really feel like you know them. Yeah, it's awesome.
I
It
can't wait.
makes
As much as I love everything we do, I know we're trying to start getting involved with conferences and creative festivals and that kind of thing. And
yeah.
hopefully at some point we're all going to meet in real life, do a panel,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yay.
I guarantee, as much as I love everything we've done to date in terms of having fun, that's going to be the most fun in the world. That's the stuff where you have to
Definitely.
pinch yourself and you're like, can't believe this is my life.
I
You're like going to
know.
cool places around the globe and like meeting up with friends
Exactly.
and chatting about what you're passionate about and hopefully bumping into the odd fan of the show. That still hasn't happened because I'm based in the middle of nowhere in England, but apparently it happens to Dustin quite a lot because he's like
All the
Mr.
time.
Conference.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Mr. Conference.
That whole thing sounds like amazing.
Mm.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that if you're looking for contentment in your work, you should do just that? You should look, which means be proactive about it. So don't necessarily expect to just passively find contentment. Maybe take a bit of an audit of what you're doing, try and think what you enjoy the most. Like Ian said, he likes teaching and inspiring and interacting with others. Take the time to actually sit down and don't just trudge in and do the same thing every day if you're not content. Be like, what small parts of what I'm doing light me up the most and how can I do more of them?
Yeah, and I think also you lose perspective why you started doing what you do in the first place, what the joy was. I think when we're so caught up in projects and tasks and clients and all sorts of things that you get you get lost in the fact that, hey, I'm supposed to be enjoying this. And I think the best thing is to exactly what we're saying, like get jump out of your daily grind. And if maybe it means taking a walk, like a routine walk every day, maybe it means connecting with a friend, whether it's a design friend or even somebody that is not a designer, doing something in your community. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that, but you, as Ian said, the more you get to know yourself and the more you get to figure out what kind of lights your fire, that makes it easier. But you can't just keep going, expecting joy. I guess if you're stuck in a rat wheel, you've got to change something.
If you look at the if someone has a passion behind what they're talking about, I can listen to anyone talking about any subject.
So
but
true.
if you can have someone who's
true, isn't it? It could be like steelworks, and you're like, tell me more.
If the person is engaged and passionate about what they're talking about, that literally can be any subject that they can take something boring and make it interesting. But you can have the opposite to that, where you have someone who is doing something, they're not passionate about it, and it could be the most interesting topic. It could be about like space travel, but it could, the way they're talking about it and they're not really excited about it, you can just like, I'll turn this off. It's just not, So yeah, and I feel I've definitely noticed the difference between me talking about graphic design, when I was doing sort of websites and stuff like that, in compared to when I'm talking about lettering, specific lettering and calligraphy. And I suppose other people have noticed that as well, because it's normally my conversations with other people, if they normally say, "Oh, I love seeing your videos." That's literally the first thing they say to me, and then I find it hard then to sort of like, they're talking about that, and I'm like, "But I want to know about you." So it's that's showing that what I'm passionate about comes off and rubs off on them,
Mm.
then what I want to find out what makes them tick. And there's a lot of people who don't know because they do a job they don't really enjoy, which is probably quite a lot of people, but they don't have anything in the evening. I just try and quiz them. I go, well, what do you like doing in your spare time?
Mm.
I don't, obviously a lot
and
of
they
us
don't know, do they?
Yeah, and it's just like, but then you sort of drill down, and it might be like, I was speaking to one of my relatives at a wedding, and it was like, I really like doing poetry and that sort of creative writing. And then they go, well, I could never, turn it into a job.
Oh,
and after,
that's so limiting.
I know, but
Thinking.
and it's hard to say, but if you put a couple of years of posting essay every day,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you will. But
I think the
it's-
easier sales pitch is, if you love it as much as you're telling me, you would naturally prefer to do it than watching Netflix or whatever. You know what I mean? If there's a thing you can't stop thinking about it, you have to do it. It's nothing to do with the money. You should want to do it regardless of money or pay or career or anything. I was going to say something and my mind has gone blank because suddenly I've got like the brightest sunlight in the world shining into my left eyeball, and that's really distracting.
I thought you were going to have a revelation.
Yeah, because it kind of came.
Lisa, could I get a feeling angelic here?
Yeah.
Sorry, it just came back to me.
Go.
While
go
it's there, it will be gone again in a minute.
Yes.
I'm getting on in years now. This happens more and more.
You say that, but you're the youngest of all four of us.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it
What does that mean?
doesn't bode well at all. So
Uh,
I get exactly the same thing with a lot of my followers, and I see it everywhere. In where you can tell they haven't quite hit their stride. You can tell they're making good progress. They're on the path, but they're not fully doing what they want to be doing, and they're not sure what they want to be doing. It's not that they're like, I know I want to be doing that, and that would make me the happiest in the world. They just haven't figured it out.
Most difficult.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. It's the same as finding or developing a style, right? Exactly the same principle. And we've talked about this a bunch of times on the show. We always tend to say, well, the idea is to always be doing and trying things, action over inaction, and paths will open up in life, and don't be scared just to explore and be like, okay, well, there's a few options. I'm going to go for that one. And you go down that path, another path opens up. You're like, okay, I'll try that one. And you go down all these random little paths until eventually you're further down in your overall journey. And I would say probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, I don't think any of us are 100% there in terms of we are totally doing what makes us the most content all the time.
Look, obviously, I think with anything, there's going to be good and bad stuff, but I'd say I'm pretty darn happy.
Yeah, I think you might be the closest. Ian, I'm saying we're not there because, for example, you're saying how much you love teaching and that kind of thing, but I know that's not all of what you do. And you've kind of talked about you wish you could spend all your time doing that stuff. But right now, for example, with like social media and that kind of thing, you're doing it in many ways for brand awareness, but it doesn't bring in all the money. You need to also split your time with other things.
Yeah. It's just that I suppose that the confliction of the sort of, or the blurred line between making money from what you're doing and just generally enjoying what you're doing, and sometimes that can I think when it's you're paying your bills with the thing that you're passionate about, and I suppose for me it was my hobby to start with. It's a weird place to be in because you're like, then sometimes like something pops up. I know you have problems with your car and you have to pay a load of bills to sort that out, and you're like, well, I need some more money, and that requires me to be more creative to be able to get more money in, and so you're like, and you like suddenly it becomes like, oh, I just need to do stuff, and you might and then the thing is, for me, I get caught up in the fact that what I earn is based on my ideas. So if my ideas aren't there, then how do I earn? So that's a really big sticking point for me, because it's like ideas sometimes come really easily on one hand, and sometimes just nothing. There's just nothingness. It's like my brain is just full of nothing, and I like, come on, brain, you can come on, you can just go think of something. And it's just having like the summer has been quite like both me and my wife have been working. We're trying to juggle who's looking after kids and trying to get families to look after kids and stuff like that. And so it's been a bit out of routine, and that's been actually, I found that quite hard. I didn't think I was a person off routine, but actually I am. And so I didn't have time. Like I would usually, like, the kids would go off to school and I'd go for like half an hour, listen to some music and just go for a walk, and that would sort of sometimes clear my head, and didn't have that. And so it's been a weird week, and now I've lost where we were going.
Okay, so I guess my point was, let's say 100% is the goal, where you're totally doing absolutely everything you want to be doing, you're fully content, and you're not dealing with the crap that you don't want to be doing.
Jeez, will you ever get there?
Maybe not, but let's say maybe Ian and I are 90% of the way there, and maybe you're like 95% of the way there, Lisa.
I'd also say I'm 90.
Okay, well, all right, we're all 90 then. I guarantee a lot of the people listening might be 20 or 30 or 40 or 60 or whatever. And that's totally fine. But I think it's good to have the context of how long we've been doing what we've been doing, and how many things we've tried. And
absolutely.
Like, what's the total length for you guys? Because I know I'm young, but I started this stuff when I was 12. And yes, I was at school, but I was spending serious time in the evenings, like really pouring into learning all this, trying different things out, launching different things. So I've been doing this for 18 years and I'm at 90%. You know what I mean? Like how long for you guys?
Well, I think it depends on how you want to measure stuff, because I guess I've been feeding my creativity and imagination my whole life. I never let that go to waste, or I never let that atrophy, if I can call it that. I think some people do, though. I think they don't, they don't play, they don't experiment, they don't, even if they don't have a creative job, or their job doesn't allow them to fully express their creativity, they don't then have that thing on the side that still keeps them fired up. And I think I never lost that. I think I continue to do that, even though I had the really stressful, not so creative magazine design jobs. I mean, I worked for a soccer magazine. Like, that's not really that creative, but I did that for like 4 years, and then it was a wine magazine, and then so none of this stuff
wine,
was
that's
like
more
huge.
you.
Yeah, that was more me. The perks.
Surely you were
at
90% then, weren't you?
90%
really
alcohol
good
composition.
perks,
Yeah,
just saying. Yeah, so it's about. I guess then you could say I've been prepping for where I am today my whole life. I don't know. It's I guess depends on how you want to look at it, but
a long time, basically.
A long time. And I mean, Ian, you've been an experimental, creative person probably your whole life too. And if you weren't that way inclined, if you weren't inquisitive, and you didn't have that thing of, well, I want to try and learn something new, you wouldn't have sat down and actually picked up that book, Calligraphy for Dummies, and actually worked your way through it. You wouldn't have done that.
No.
So I think it's a lot to do with attitude, actually. Even though you have maybe like a really crappy job and you're 20% happy there, but at night, you might, there's nothing stopping you from coming home at night and like you've got the setup where it's like just feeding your creativity, whether it's, I don't know, you got a little Etsy shop on the side, or you making jewelry, or you baking cakes, or you whatever. I think it depends on how, back to what you're saying, Tom, depends on how badly you want to keep that alive.
Mm-hmm. And I'll give you guys an analogy. I don't know if you're similar, but I know with elements of my house, I'll be quite busy and I'll let them degenerate and bits to add up over quite a long time. So, for example, we've got a room in our house and it's been like over a year of it getting like messier and more disorganized, and things around that have been like breaking around the house and never getting fixed, and nothing big, but it's all little things which kind of stress you out in the back of your mind. And this was what my Instagram post was about, Lisa, that you saw.
Yeah.
And it had so much energy at the weekend that basically pretty much redecorated and organized that room, fixed all the little bits around the house, like got everything done basically in one swoop. And I think life works similarly for many of us. It's not that we're constantly like monitoring it. Often things will creep in and we won't realize. And then 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, you're like, oh, I hadn't realized it had degenerated to that point where my focus had been lost. But there's nothing to say that you can't do a bit of a makeover for things. So if you've reached a point where actually you're a bit lacking in contentment for certain areas of your work or what you're doing, there's no reason why you can't spend a day or a weekend or whatever and sit down and really kind of pour through everything you're doing and be like, you know what? I'm only doing things this way because it's been a slow devolution to this point. I don't have to. And actually, when I wake up and snap myself out of it and think, you know what, I'm going to change that. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to do more of that. You can do that. And I think that instant wake up call of like, you know what, I'm going to fix things can be really powerful, because
absolutely,
as I say, it's just the accumulation of like lots of little things slipping for years can get you to that point.
And you have to also include not only the physical or the routine things, but your mind and your thoughts as well, because sometimes before you know it, you're in this place and you just think that you can't get out of it. You think that this is it, this is your lot, you just have to accept it, and that's not true. You can change the way you think about it, or change the way you see stuff. It doesn't always have to be a physical like move or change jobs or whatever. It can actually be something in your mind as well.
I'm becoming really fascinated with this stuff lately, because I think particularly, I know not everyone listening is going to be self-employed, but I think particularly if you are, this stuff can mess with your head because you have more freedom than you realize. I think it's human nature just to fall into habits and routines, but they're ultimately self-imposed. It's like, let's say you're freelancing from home. You could, like, notwithstanding family commitments, etc., but you could technically wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what, I'm going to shift my entire working day 6 hours later. So I'm going to start 6 hours later and finish 6 hours later just because. I'm not saying that would be a good idea, but it is pretty much the opposite of, say, a corporate office, where it's like you work at these times, you follow these protocols and this workflow and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, you can do whatever the hell you want. If you're like, okay, well, starting tomorrow, I'm going to drink 6 coffees a day and I'm going to turn things on its head and redecorate my office and try more of this stuff. And every 15 minutes, I'm going to get up and do a silly dance at my desk. Like, you can do whatever the hell you want. But as humans, we generally don't do that stuff, because it's almost like there's some invisible force standing over us. It's like an invisible boss, right? Like, kind of making us do things in a certain way.
Absolutely.
When you don't need to. Like.
Exactly. My mum always goes, "Oh, shame, you're working so hard." And I always reply, "Well, it's all self-inflicted, so you can't feel pity, it's my own doing." Yeah. So
it's so illogical, though. It's like, because that's a lot of the stuff that makes us miserable.
What's wrong with that?
That's what stifles our contentment. And then you're like, hold on, I'm the only one imposing this.
Exactly. Yeah. So true.
There's got to be some deep psychological research on this. I certainly will not say I understand it, but like I say, I'm becoming really fascinated with why we sabotage ourselves in these ways.
So true.
I've tried to be more organised in here, because in my old studio, I was just like stuff. There is stuff still everywhere in this one, but in my other one, which just
pretty
like,
good.
Everything was covered, and I was like, okay, I need to get sorted, because like, I'm naturally messy, so I have to like really work hard not to be messy. But it does help, and it does really help me, with sort of clarity as you're trying to sort of do some stuff, and if you can actually find the thing you're looking for. And I think that's the case with not just where you work, but it's like home life, making sure that there's things sorted in there, and you're not like letting them slip just because it's getting in the way of work and stuff like that, because that can be like you say, a mental block. I've been like, the summary is a good point to sort of tick things off your to-do list. Not especially at home, because it's sort of a slower pace over the summer. And so for me, I suddenly get bursts of energy. I'm like, that's it, got to do it. I got to paint this wall or whatever it may be.
Mm.
Do you find you can't stop? I'm so of that nature. I'll start a project, and particularly if it's something that takes a day or two, it's like I can't stop to eat or sleep. I'm like, I need to get this done now because I'm on a roll. When you hit that roll,
my over the past couple of years, I haven't done it actually, not this year, but the past 2 years before that. My process for making products was 3 days of like not much sleep and like working all hours, because I'm not very good at doing long term. So I would like, okay, I had a deadline of like, Tuesday evening or like Wednesday morning, I'm going to get it. That's when it needs to be done. That's when it needs to be posted. This is new. Come and get it, please. And I would literally work from like Friday, probably not work over the weekend, but then just Monday and Tuesday, just finishing it off and just getting everything done, because I have to have that sort of pressure.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I had to work out, is like what motivates me in my work, or what motivates me to get jobs done, in the house. And it's that, okay, like maybe invite someone around, like in a few days' time. Currently haven't got any curtains in the lounge. They're going to come and they're going to sit in the lounge. You don't want them like, because people walking past the house and they can see straight into our lounge. They don't want that. So that will give me like, okay, I've got to get it done.
Yeah.
But if it's like, well, yeah, we just get it done whenever. And I'll be like, yeah.
How long later? A piece of string.
Yeah.
I think circling around a lot of the stuff we're talking about today, I got a question on Instagram from, I don't know if you know Laura at Nifty Fox Creative, I think her handle is.
Yes.
Lovely woman, one of my favourite people on Instagram, very talented letterer and designer as well. And she was talking about hitting a bit of creative block and how maybe that was making her, it's discontent, right? I'm being really ignorant here. It's not uncontent,
yes.
discontent. Discontented.
Yeah,
I think. How embarrassing. But yeah, she was talking about that and kind of asking advice. And I actually thought of you, Ian, with your, I know we always come back to this, your vegetable calligraphy and stuff. And I was saying to her, if you're feeling that way, one of the best things you can do is get random and weird and have some fun and forget about all the day-to-day stuff you're doing and go and do that project that you've always thought about but never kind of taken the leap. The project where you're like, that would be a wacky idea, or you've kind of thought of it in the shower, or you're like, that would be a bit of fun, and you've never quite fit it in. Go do that, because I guarantee that would be the best way to get in a switch gears mentally and to get out of that funk. Because what have you got to lose? Like, it's not for a client. You're not going to lose money or anything like that for doing it. You're just going to go do some like weird, wacky, random thing that you've had on your to-do list forever. And I think that's one of the best ways to feel content and blow away the creative cobwebs.
I find that you have to do something really quickly, like maybe come up with an idea and do it really quickly before your brain has a chance to catch up with you. Because like I find like last night, I had a really strong coffee at like 4:00 yesterday afternoon. I couldn't get to sleep till 2:00 in the morning because my brain was just on another planet, just like going through everything. I was just like lying there going, I just want you to shut up.
Yeah,
I just want to go. I want to go to sleep. But it was just going through like a ton of different things, and there was like a really cool idea. Problem was, like, sometimes it's good to let ideas mature and to develop, but then sometimes there's like ones where you like leave it, and then your brain goes, well, it's not that good an idea. No one's going to think it's funny, or stuff like that. And so then you get to the next day and like actually you don't do it. And sometimes you need to act on it straight away, just to get, like you say, blow the cobwebs away, just get yourself out of that creative block or whatever that may be. And sometimes they're sort of like trying to outwit your brain to think,
Yeah.
oh, no, it's not a good idea.
Is this
Yeah.
the creative equivalent of how your mind doesn't know your stomach's full for 20 minutes? So if you eat quick enough,
so giving it, so,
that's what I did with those fajitas
Exactly.
before our call, and boy, am I regretting that now.
but
I feel like I'm about to
I
keel over in a Mexican haze.
the thing is, I don't want to feel full. That's my problem.
Yeah.
I will just like, no. I just keep eating, because otherwise, if I give it a chance to think, then it'll think it's full.
Yeah.
And
It's like you personified your stomach.
Yeah.
it's still my pet.
No, but it's so true. I mean, I think the minute we start overthinking stuff, I think that's where the magic just disappears, doesn't it? You know, it's like that whole thing of, okay, I'm probably gonna get this all wrong and mix it up, but that quantum physics, it's like when you try and put your finger on it, it like shifts. You can never quite get it. It's never mind. It's a book I read once.
You read quantum physics?
No, it's
Yeah, she just picked it up and leafed through it on a casual Thursday afternoon.
No wonder we didn't understand it.
But it's the same. It's the same as dreams. Like the minute you try and remember them the next morning, the harder you think about them, the more they disappear. I think it's the same thing. It's
but
you
maybe call it with the science stuff, Lisa. All right, we're here for art and doodling and casual stuff like that.
Sorry, I told you I was the weirdo of the group. Yeah.
No, I like it though.
Cool.
Okay, what else on the contentment front? I mean, around what we're saying, would you agree it's perhaps being more spontaneous? Would that be a good way to define it, perhaps?
Oh, definitely. It would mean
the lack of
you
overthinking,
getting
you're
out of
saying?
the way, so that your inner sort of creativity or spirit or whatever you want to call it can at least have a moment.
Yeah.
Because then the adult stuff kind of gets set aside and the kids stuff comes forward. Kind of thing.
I forget what you call it, but it's like where in certain types of therapy, I think, or maybe films about exorcisms, they get you to start writing and it eventually turns into words, right? So it's kind of just lines, and then your brain shuts off and your hand starts writing words.
Yeah.
And in the same way, imagine that pen becomes a paintbrush or a mouse or something like that. You could literally just start creating, and it will start like abstract and random, but it will naturally move towards something because your brain doesn't like disorder forever. So why not make that the exercise on the back of today's show? Start designing with nothing in mind and see how awkward it feels, because you'll be like, but I need something, I need some direction.
It's crazy.
Just like make a line, make a shape, add some color, add something else, take something away, and then just build it from there. And a few hours later, it could be the most cathartic thing that you've done all week.
Yep.
Something that I've come to realize that play is just such an awesome part of what I do, or what we do as creatives, is just playing around with different things. Like a child doesn't think, well, I'm no good at using paintbrushes, so I'm not going to pick one up.
Yeah, they don't care. They just do it.
I think it's. I was listening to a short clip of a TED talk by Sir Ken Robinson, and he was talking about how we've educated
in school, stuff about
we've been educated
that
out of creativity.
Correct, we so have.
And then there's a really good quote I had to write down, which was, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. And just how the kids are just prepared to do stuff even though it might be wrong, or what I see the most is when you get a kid to draw a person and they're quite happily draw a person. You get an adult to draw a person, they will just not even pick up the pen and try and do it, because they're worried about what other people think, or
looks stupid,
they're supposed to look
like
a certain way. Whereas a child will create something from what they think it should look like, or what the dimensions they think it should look like. And I think, that sort of sense, and someone left a comment underneath saying, mistakes are part of the learning process. In fact, they are where the learning takes place. Creativity, exploration, curiosity all take time and space. And space is needed for these ideas to form. And I was like, oh, absolutely. So good, in terms of like just how we function as, if everyone is creative. I feel everyone is creative. I feel that there's just this, sometimes people put a block up because they're not great.
Yep.
In their mind, they're not
in
great.
their mind they're not great, and
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down to what other people will think of it. Oh, if I drew a person, it would be rubbish, but that's their own opinion, and it's and you have to start rubbish. It has to be rough, and it has to be around until you
And
get
it doesn't
good.
really matter at the end of the day. It's just, it just doesn't matter.
There's so many variants as well. There's sticking with the people example. There are people that do photorealism, so you can't tell the difference between that and a photo.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you do people who do stick figures, and you do people who do abstract cartoons for newspapers, and people who do caricature arts, and people that do cute illustrations, and people that do somewhere between cute and realistic, kind of like yours, Lisa. It's not like, you know what I mean? It has like nice anatomy and stuff, but it's also cutesy. Yeah. And thousands of other variants beyond that. And so whatever
you
yours
can say
is,
which one's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whatever yours will fit somewhere on there. And so it won't inherently suck. There will always be a space. I couldn't do photorealism, but I might fit into one of those other pockets better.
And the only way you discover where you feel like you fit, and I don't mean fit in society or the art world, I mean fit within yourself, is to actually just do it. So you can't, there's no speedy way, there's no shortcut, there's no whatever. It's just, you have to create. And I think going back to contentment, there's such pressure these days, which I understand why there would be, but there is enormous pressure. Like, I've got to find my style, I've got to find it now, and I've got to get my signature out there. I think enjoy the journey of like the creating and figuring it out and experimenting and playing, and that's because it's those times that you're going to remember. And to be honest, that's what I love the most about what I still do, because I mean, everyone's evolving all the time. Ian, you Tom, we're all changing and evolving all the time, and it's only now in the last couple of years of my life that I've realized just the act of doing the creating is the real kiff stuff. It's like the amazing stuff. It's not the making money out of it or whatever. It's the fact that you're sitting here and you're doing it, and man, that's awesome. That's awesome stuff.
It is.
And I think we forget about that,
I think what we forget about is just creating because we want to create stuff. And I think we can't see, because of social media, I think, the bad side is that we're just comparing ourselves. We'd make something and we look at someone else's on social media and think, well, that's just amazing. But we don't know that they're now 70 and they've been practicing this since they were 1,
exactly,
or they're 30 but they're miserable.
There is that.
There was on the radio today, there was a really bad statistic about 1 in 3, 1 in 4 girls self-harm.
I heard that.
And
it's terrible.
Do what? Sorry,
self-harming.
That?
Oh
man,
yeah, it was really sad when I heard that.
And they think the main reason is because they see the perfect pictures on social media and they just can't aspire to that. And that's in the creative way, that's what happens. We see these flawless pieces of art and we just think, well, I'm never going to attain that, and stop doing what we do, or just
we go down a place that's so bad, and just because you saw that beautiful piece of art, you didn't see the 50,000 that the person did before they got there. It's not, they didn't just like spew out this perfect piece of art. It was like a story.
So how about we're saying compare less, consume less in many cases, i.e. consume less social media and stuff, create more and have fun more.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that, Tom. I have to write this down. Quick.
It's not as good as your copy to learn, not to earn. I think that's the all-time great.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
But yeah, with that, what that could look like in practice, rather than just being like an airy-fairy quote, right, is maybe get a tracker on your phone, like I've done, where it tells you how much time you spend on your phone every day and what apps, because I found that really interesting. And I spend an ungodly amount of time on Instagram, it turns out. So I don't feel like it's making me miserable because I'm using it for certain things. But I think for a lot of people, it probably is. It's just that consumption of content. It's not really furthering what they're doing. And in many cases, it's making them feel worse. So why don't you agree to cut back on that for an hour a day? Or even, let's make it more manageable, 10 minutes a day. You can spare 10 minutes, right? Everyone can. So 10 minutes less consumption a day. And then you fill that 10 minutes doing a random, wacky, fun project like we talked about, where you either just start creating with nothing in mind, or you do that project you've had on the back burner, or whatever it might be. You just do that and watch your contentment go up.
Definitely. And all the weird and wonderful things that you start thinking about doing, because from there it sparks something else. And before you know it, it would be so cool to do this. And then when you've done that, you go, I really want to try that. And that's the whole point. And before you know it, you've actually, 5 years down the line, you're now full-time something else because you started experimenting,
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so any closing thoughts for the listeners in terms of finding contentment?
I think your quote. I think you just need to say your quote again.
Yeah, exactly.
I've forgotten it now, probably. Compare less, consume less, create more, have fun more.
Yes. Love it.
All right. There you go.
There you go.
I basically just nicked what you guys were saying and just tied it up with a bow at the end.
That's what you're good at, Tom.
Exactly.
Piracy.
Putting a ring on it.
Yar. Cool. Well, thank you so much for everyone for tuning in this week. We will hopefully have Dustin back next week because we missed the guy.
We do miss you, Dustin.
But I do hope that everyone got some value from today's episode. I hope that you're feeling fired up to go and have a bit of fun. Don't take life so seriously. Yes. Remember the words of Mr. Bueller. And get creating. All right, we'll catch you guys soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that you're feeling fired up to go and create, and most of all, to enjoy it. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're on social media too if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.